Good morning. Good morning. Sava here from Football Heritage TV. I wanted to do a video today about our leaders, the owners, the men we should be looking up to, our saviors, the master manipulators is what I'm going to call them. Enic and Levy. Now, this isn't a new thing. Anything I'm about to say today isn't new. It's not new. This has been going on for years and years and years, and many people have had the wool pulled over their eyes. Levy and Enic have managed to put a plaster over what is needed for open surgery. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this. And I'm going to explain why I think they have manipulated everybody and anybody. Now, obviously, this depends on age and what you remember and going back years and years and years. But let's start. Levy and Enic have owned this football club for 22 years. And the reason I say Levy and Enic is because we all know that Enic owned the club, but Daniel Levy is the driving force behind all of this. He is the CEO. He's the chairman. He is the guy that runs our football club from top to bottom. He's the visible presence. We never see Joe Lewis anywhere near it. He's in the Bahamas somewhere, floating around on his boats and his £90 million oil paintings. They've owned the club for 22 years. And the belief was, we're going to build Spurs to compete with the elite. Everything we do is going to be about competing. Everything we do is going to be about rivaling, taking us on par with Man United's, Liverpool's, Arsenal's, now the newer clubs in Man City's and Chelsea's. Everything was going to be about that. Everything was for us. It was for the fans. It was for us. Thank you, Levy and Enic. For us. For us. And many fans believed this. And this went on for years and years and years. And on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Twitch and whatever other platforms people have these discussions, there's been that army of people going, the good of the club, for the good of the club, they're brilliant. Look where we were in the 90s. Look where we were in the 90s. Look where we are now. They're giving us a financial footprint. We are financially stable now because of these owners. This is what we were told. Wait till the stadium's finished. This is what we were told. As soon as the stadium revenue starts coming in, Spurs are going to go whew. And quite simply, none of that has happened. And quite simply, many of us, not all, but many of us saw this coming. Many of us were sitting there 10, 15, 20 years ago saying, this isn't about the football club. This isn't about the fans. They've told us as much. This isn't about the football. They told us this was economics. This was a vehicle for them to drive their business forward and make huge profit. This was not about us, the fans. This was not about success on the football pitch. When you hear Levy saying these things, it is lip service because we've heard it for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 22 going on 23 years. We've heard this lip service. And along the way, people have believed that it's great. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to explain what I mean by that. The Pochettino era that people go, let's go back to that. Even in that Pochettino era, fans like myself and like Pete, who comes on to the Spurs review, we were sitting there going, this is just papering over cracks. And everyone was like, you're so negative. You're so negative. Enjoy the good times. But we could see past the end of our noses. And I know I've got a big old nose, but I could see past it. That we might have created a good 11. We might have created a good team that for 2 to 3 years, lovely to watch. Didn't win anything, but lovely to watch. And I remember saying to people, this is where the downfall starts because this is as good as it gets. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Whilst people were going, oh, Champions League final, second in the league, Harry Kane, Toby and Jan and Walker and blah, blah, blah. Everyone was going, man, look how well we've done. Look how well the owner's done. Look what they've created. In the background, which is where it counts, the background of the football club, nothing was being built. And when you scratch beneath the surface, it was a good team papering over what was a terribly run football club. Not a terribly run business, but a terribly run football club. Yes, they were busy in the background building the business, building the stadium, concert deals, NFL deals, boxing deals, Formula One deals, skywalks, club shop, training ground. They were busy doing all of that, but they forgot about the football. And we are football fans. They forgot about the football, people. And what I mean is this, is when we had that great team and everyone was going mad about it, and some of us were being called negative, sat there and said, and many of us, this isn't, and I told you so, many of us sat there and said, but what are they doing in the background? What's happening with the academy? Nothing. The square root of nothing. What's the pathway from the academy to the first team? Square root of nothing. What ethos have we implemented? Nothing. Because once that 11 isn't working, we've got nothing in behind it. What strategy for transfers? Nothing. Because if you look at the 27 signings that were made under Poch's era, only 4 or 5 of them actually worked out. So there was no transfer. I'm not blaming Poch for this, by the way. I'm talking about the club and the wider picture. So again, there was no strategy in place. There was no ethos. Paul Mitchell left. Then a string of directors of football come in that have no say over the club, that don't implement anything. And all in all, we are now seeing the destruction of Tottenham Hotspur as we know it. Now, people might think, oh, that's dramatic. It's negative. You know, we're 6th in the league. We could get Europe. I've seen us get Europe so many times in the last 40 years that I've supported Spurs. It doesn't mean anything. We don't kick on. We don't use it as an elevator, as a stepping stone, as a starting block to kick on. But fans celebrate like Europe's great. And we're now seeing the destruction. And what I mean by that is none of the last 7 or 8 years and the good times, if you can call them that, I'll call them the good times, not that we won anything. A lot of that has been down to Harry Kane coming through the youth team. And he's a one-off. I said about the youth team, no pathway. Other than Kane, what's come through in the last 10, 15, 20 years? You had Ledley King and then Harry Kane. The rest have all been bit part players, haven't they? The Winkses, the Skips, the Tangangas, the Nortons, the Masons, the Bentalebs, the Tommy Carrolls, the Dean Marnies. So where do we go from here? Why are we destructing? Well, we're destructing because of this. We're now seeing a point where Lloris's era is coming to an end. And forget Lloris the last year or so, being a brilliant goalkeeper for Spurs for nearly a decade, maybe over a decade. We're going to see Kane soon come to the end. Son's getting older. We're going to see him come to the end. The club is slowly but surely going to start unraveling to see what it is. And what we're seeing now is an amalgamation of bad manager decisions, bad director of football decisions, bad scouting decisions, bad academy decisions are all now starting to bear rotten fruit. It's now all starting to meet in the middle. You know, all the players are getting older that were good and it's slowly going downhill, 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 downhill. And soon there's just going to be this massive bang where everyone realizes that this club hasn't been run well. And for all you people out there that talk about, look where we were in the 90s. I identified with Spurs in the 80s and 90s. I identified with Spurs. I knew what we were. I knew what we weren't. We still then were a cup team. We went out to win trophies. We even won 2 trophies in the 90s with far less resources. So all these people are going, oh, look at our average league position now compared to the 90s. So look at the amount of money flying around in football now. It wasn't there then. So what happens? I get people coming into my YouTube channel all the time going, oh, you wanted Conte out. You wanted this manager out. When are we going to realise this isn't about Pochettino or Jose or Redknapp or Conte? This has been bubbling up behind the scenes. And for anyone mature enough to realise that, They'll know why I said for 18 months that Conte wasn't the guy for this club. Because look at it. Look how badly the club is run. What part of any of you thought that Conte was the guy to come in and live with that and to deal with that? What part of anyone thought that Conte was the guy to come in and have a 4, 5, 6 year project? And I'm not knocking Conte. He isn't, his style isn't for me, but he's a winner. And he'll go and he'll win somewhere else. I've got no doubt about that. No one can knock his track record. But before we bring in a Jose, before we bring in a Conte, this club needs to go B2B, back to basics. And I mean everything, back to basics. Who are we would be a good start. What do we want Tottenham Hotspur to be for the next 15, 30, 45, 100 years? What do we want this club to be? How do we want to be known across Europe? Oh, that's Spurs. They're a footballing team. That's Spurs. They win cups, whatever it may be. How do we want to be known? Okay, cool. So who's the guy you bring in to implement that? Who's the director of football that Daniel Levy's finally going to say, right, I've messed up. I need you now to fix this and build this club from the bottom up. What's the ethos? What's the club motto? What's the strategy? What's a Tottenham footballer look like? Not a Pochettino player, not a Conte player or a Jose player. What does a Tottenham player look like? So that when the managers come and go, we know that this player over there, he'd fit into Tottenham. That's who Tottenham sign, players like that. Who's going to be brought in to deal with that? Which director of football, which manager partnership can we start building? Forget Europe for a minute. This is what I mean. And I know a lot of the I'm going to say a lot of the younger fans just want Europe and just want the right now. We're in that right now culture. But I think a lot of the older fans realize that at the moment it needs to get much worse before it's going to get better. And it will when Kane goes. It will get worse. There will be pain. And it won't be because of Jose. It won't be because of Conte. It won't be because of Poch. It will be because of the owners. It will be because of what these owners have done and created in the last 22, 23 years. A lack of a strategy on the footballing side. If they mirrored their passion for first class in everything to do with the stadium and the business, on the pitch, we'd be winning Champions Leagues. But over here on the business side, everything is gold standard, 10 out of 10. Over here on the footballing side, everything is bronze. Everything is, let's not go for our first two choices. We'll go for the third choice. And then we wonder why we don't compete. Who's going to come in and implement an academy strategy, a clear pathway? Because if these owners don't want to do that, what's it going to take for many people to realize that they don't care about the football side? They don't care about the football club. They care about the business. Look, I could go on and on and on for days, but they have destroyed the connection I have with this football club, if I'm honest. They have destroyed our fans. Our fans are bickering with each other all the time. They've destroyed us. They've destroyed our identity, our ethos. To dare is to do. Is it? To dare is to do what? To dare is to build a skywalk. To dare is to get Anthony Joshua fighting in our stadium. To dare is to get Beyonce singing her heart out while they sell tickets for 200 quid or whatever they are. When are we going to get back to that? Speak to the ex-pros. Listen to the likes of Steve Perriman talk. They don't recognise this football club anymore. What are we? In 22, 23 years, how have we become a football club with no idea, no strategy, no roadmap, no pathway, no vision, no clarity on what we're doing? The whole thing is an absolute shambles. They have destroyed this club. 22 years of destruction from the master manipulators. Leave your thoughts, leave your comments. Thank you very much. I will see you tonight. We'll be back at 8 p.m. for the Spurs review. It will be myself, Mr. Box Office, Ashmatic, Phil P is going to be joining us, and maybe a couple of other guests. We'll see you live at 8 p.m. Take care, people. See you then. Bye-bye.